How are you guys doing? Welcome back to another video, and this video is going to be part 2 of the No Way Home customs that we've been doing, and this time is going to be Electro. So let's get into it. Now before we begin working on the actual figure, I want to begin by showing you how I made the actual head sculpt. Now I actually purchased the head, came with the entire body, which is a male reference body. It's a 3D file I purchased, and the head just happened to look exactly like Jamie Foxx. But it was just missing like the facial hair and the skin texture, so that's all I did, was just add the eyebrows, the goatee, the hair, a little bit of skin wrinkles, even though it barely even showed up, the teeth. And then I ended up making 2 separate head sculpts. So there was one just serious head sculpt, and then a smirking head sculpt, which I was gonna make the eyes like glow yellow. Because of that, I can't really like sell this 3D model, or I can't even like link it because someone's selling the whole male reference body. But I will link in the description below the actual the full thing. Basically it's simple to do, the whole eyebrows and everything. And then now what I'm beginning to work on is a coat, because it was somewhat intricate, the design, because it's sort of like 2 coats. It has a undercoat, overcoat, similar to Doc Ock. And so basically I ended up using just 2 planes. I extracted them to get a little thickness, and then combined them, merged them, I smoothed them out, and then added the details, all the collars and everything. And at the end I masked them in half, so it would be 2 halves, the back and the 2 front halves, so then I could just super glue it on into the figure. And yeah, so all this, both of the head sculpt and the coat part, I 3D printed it. And so here's the final result. It took a lot of actual trials to get the head sculpt right and the ball joint and all that, so but eventually I got the scaling right. And then the jacket was good from the first try. I just had a couple of holes in the back. I don't know if you noticed that. And now the tedious process, which was sanding that whole chest piece, torso piece. It was just way too bulky for the jacket to close up. And even after I sanded it extensively, it still wasn't, small enough. So later on I had to use epoxy sculpt to fill in the gaps. You'll see that in a bit. And now I'm just wrapping around the arm in cloth, similar to how I did in the Doc Ock video. If you haven't seen that video, it's up in the corner right now, so check it out. But yeah, I'm actually getting better at it. It looks a lot nicer than it did in the last video. So I did it for both arms. I'm beginning to glue it on the back piece. And you can see there's 2 holes, and later on I'll fill them in with epoxy sculpt, which is a 2-part epoxy that hardens like rock after being mixed. So yeah, just began adding both halves. As you can see, it was way easier than having to sculpt this entire thing epoxy. The bad thing about epoxy sculpt is that you can, in order to get like a very accurate sculpt, you have to let it dry to harden, and so it would take like days to get it done because you have to let it harden and then come back and refine the detail. With 3D printing, I just make the design, 3D print it, make sure it's up to scale, and then boom, it's done. And then with a little bit of epoxy sculpt, it's the perfect thing, because then you can fill in any gaps, you can fill in any extra details you want to add. So it's a perfect mix of both worlds. And now I'm beginning to do basically just a white base coat on the head, because before on the Doc Ock figure I did a black base coat and it didn't turn out too nice. And I think it's because the skin tone on a black head was more difficult than on a white head. Even in this case, it was still much better to use the white, because that way also the irises and the eyes are all white out already, so it's a lot easier. And I'm beginning here with the mid-tone, so not too dark, not too light, so that later on I can add highlights, but I can also add the shadows into all the face to really accentuate the likeness, because already the likeness is pretty accurate, as you can see from the 3D model I was working on. There's basically no reason why it wouldn't look like him, but just with the paint and all the details that I add, I'm just making sure to accentuate the sculpt, make it stand out more, especially in this scale where it's so small. Obviously in a bigger scale, like 1/6 scale, like the Hot Toy scale, that would you'll see the details a lot nicer, a lot better, and even the skin texture. But in this case, because I can't even add the speckling for the skin, I have to basically just use the shadows, highlights, and midtones to really convey the depth of the face. And also adding the goatee and the eyebrows help a lot to really define, his likeness as well. And like I said earlier, this is one of 2 head sculpts, so this is just the serious one. I did a second one where I had the eyes glowing yellow. I just didn't record that one. I mean, it's gonna be pretty repetitive, and the other one was smirking. And the whole basis on the custom is from a leaked image. I can't really show it, I don't want to get copyright striked, but in that image he was smirking, so I just basically copied that facial expression. You can probably find the image if you just look up on Google. And now just finishing up a little light sanding, making sure that the paint sticks nicely. So apart from sanding the filled in gaps, just sanding the actual sculpt, 3D print. So yeah, now just again white base coat. In this case, why I chose white was because of the fluorescent yellow that the coat had, to make sure that it really stood out. But a little mistake was adding the white on the pants. It just looked weird later on because I didn't really like coat it nicely like the black later on, so it didn't really turn out that nice. I should have just masked off, painted that black. Either way, it came out good though. And now I'm painting the undercoat, basically the coat that's under the main coat. And this is a beige colored coat. It has sort of like a turtleneck up there. And the main coat is just yellow and green. So it's basically like reminiscent to the comic suit. It's a bit strange. I've seen a lot of fan art of like a design for Electro that looks a lot better than this. So for it to be electrical jacket, it looks a little weird. I'm wondering if in the movie he's gonna have more of a upgraded like actual villain suit, or he's just gonna be wearing this jacket the whole time. I don't know. If there's a better suit, I'll go ahead and make it too. So could be a part 2, but I'm not quite sure yet. Now adding on the fluorescent yellow, like I said before, which is the whole reason why I painted this or base coated it in white, was to make sure that this would stand out and not have to add like 50 million coats to cover the black. So it was a good call in that regard.
Proud of me, so I throw pride away. She know I stuck to the plan and I stayed out the way. Now we're spending no money, never touching the bank. Just from me the game and I'ma get it done. Don't do it for fame, do it for the ones. Ace with cigar, my damage my lungs. Wife, you want to drive, she get what she want. I like getting money, I got time to get it. Target on me, so my car's a tenant. Dancing with the devil, I don't bargain with it. Bobbing in a dash and the stick is with it.
And now just quickly adding the black in the chest. So it was just a normal black t-shirt, and same thing with the pants. I added a little bit. I wanted to kind of try like a wash to make it look like the jeans had like a grayish wash, but it didn't turn out too nice. So then later on, I just painted it all black, and the boots were just a brown color. And that's pretty much it for the bulk of the custom.
Up and never falling. My baby called me and said she need to stay. Be for real, 25 they other type of kid. Stop playing with me, you know that you here to stay. Stop playing with me, I'll be back home in 8. Know I'm on the go, but I'm not over you. Made you fall from home, but I'm still close to you.
Now, what you're seeing now is me working on I wanted to make an effect piece similar to the Tamashii Nations lightning effect that you can purchase. I think it was like $30. I'm not sure the price. But I took that as reference, and I basically used a bunch of triangles and then joined them and duplicated them to make sort of this lightning effect piece in ZBrush. And then my idea was to 3D print it in clear resin and then just dye it in like a yellow color. I wanted to paint it after it was like print it clear and then later on add the yellow paint, because I've seen you can purchase yellow clear resin, but it turns out a little foggy, so I kind of wanted that like shine. So that's why I decided to go with just a clear resin, and it was kind of a bit different because the print settings are a bit different too. So whatever resin you use, I advise to really research the print settings and the exposure and all that. Make sure you got that right. So yeah, I also created 2 little pieces for his arms to like come out of his hands. You can see here's the 3D printed piece. I used Nova 3D high transparency, so it's the high transparency resin Nova 3D. I'll link in the description the Amazon link that I purchased. But yeah, there's a lot of reviews that say it's difficult to print with it because of the exposure, and really I advise to, again, research for your specific printer if you're gonna do this. But yeah, with that out the way, now I'm beginning to use these alcohol inks to basically paint, the clear resin. And the good thing about these alcohol inks is that they stick well to the 3D printed part, but they still remain clear, so they're not opaque at all. So they allow to have that translucency, but still, add that brightness and that saturation. And the cool thing about this resin is that it's super clear and does not yellow at all. Even though in this case, if it would have yellowed, it would have not affected it at all because the color is going to be yellow. But if you're looking to do a clear 3D print that's clear as water, this type of resin is really good. You just have to really research the exposure settings. I cannot emphasize that enough. Research that, because you don't want to have failed prints, and this specific resin isn't that cheap. So again, I advise. Before I show you the final result, I want to thank you for watching and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and leave a comment down below for any suggestions.
Okay. Do good, do great, and they talk bad on you. No need, no face, cause they're not factual. I won't stay too long here, I'm just passing through. I might hit the bank and get a bag or two. My mama asked me why you got that cash on you. Second you switch up, they might get mad at you. No, you're not my friend, so no, I'm taxing you. You're all like my sons, I'm going dad on you. Okay, good job. Get mine, no prob. Hit my line, you're irking me. I hit that woosah. No, I don't got perks on me. I sleep good on God. Spend that money, make it reappear. Ta-da.